Now, next chapter will be ours. So it will be like small one, but important one. Beginning of modern nationalism in India. So what were the reason was the like factors of growth of modern nationalism? First was rise of growth of national consciousness among the masses. Okay. Second was British Raj sought creation of new institution of opportunities and resources like colonial policy and partly a reaction to colonial policy. So advice upsurge of concept of national and right of self-determinations in Indonesia and strong reaction to British imperialist policy was the main reason. Now, next was understanding the contradiction in Indian colonial interests. See, colonial rule was the major cause of Indian economic backwardness. Interests of Indian involved in the interest of all sections and the partisan peasant, handicraftsmen, work intellectual and capitalist and educationalist nationalist movement arose to take up the challenges of these contradictions. Political, administrative, and economic unification of country. The British rule in India subcontinent extended to from the Himalaya in the north and to the Cape Comorin in the south, and Iron Assam. So the Khyber Pass in the west, while the large area of the India were both under the single rule under the Mauryan or later the Mughals. So the British created a large state of the Mauryan of the Great Mughal, while Indian provinces were under the direct British rule and princely states were under the indirect British rule. So the professional civil servant, unified judiciary, and codified civil and criminal law, length and breadth of the country imparted a new dimension of political unity. Cultural unity existed in India for the century. The necessity of the administration, convenience, and consideration of military defense urged for economic penetration and commercial exploitation of Indian. And behind the planned development, modern means of transport and communication such as railway, road, and electricity and telegraph was also one reason. Okay, what other like economic fate of the people, different religion got linked together. Constant failure of crop in one region affected the prices and supply in the another region, and especially the leader from the different region. This was important for the encourage of political idea and mobilization and the organization of public opinion and political and economic issue. So Western thoughts and education, like introduction of modern system education, afforded the opportunity of assimilation of modern Western idea. Thinking in turn gave a new direction to the Indian political thinking, like English system of education, self-interest of efficient administration, liberal and radical thoughts of European writers like Milton, Shelley, and Stuart Mill, Rousseau, Penn, Spencer Voltaire helped many Indians imbibe the modern rational, secular, democratic, and nationalistic idea. The English language helped the nationalist leader from the different linguistic religion to liberal profession. Lawyer and doctor often visited England for the higher education and working for the modern political institution of free country and compared system with the citizen. This ever expanding English education class formed the middle class intelligentsia who constituted the nucleus for the newly arising political unrest. It was this section which provided leadership to the Indian Political Association. Role of prose and literature, the second half of the 19th century. Unprecedented growth of Indian own English vernacular newspaper. So restriction of the press, colonial ruler was there was also 169 newspaper published vernacular language, and the press were criticizing policies of the one hand and urged people to unite. So it helped spread modern idea of self-government and democracy, civil rights, industrialization. General pamphlet, national literature helped to the exchange the ideas and the rediscovery of Indian past. So historian, researcher, and European scholars such as Max Muller, Monier, William Roth Sezun, Indian scholar such as R.B. Bhandarkar and Mitra and Swami Vivekananda created entirely new picture of Indian past. Picture was characterized as a new picture of Indian past. The picture was characterized well-being of political, economic, and social institution, flourishing trend with the outside world, a rich heritage in arts, culture, and numerous critics cities. So, European scholar Indo-Aryan belong to the same ethnic group which other nation European involved gave a psychological boost to educated Indian self-respect, confidence, so can help the nationalists to demolish the colonial myths and long history of servitude of the foreign rulers. So the progressive character of the socio-religious reform movement was this reform movement sought to remove the social evils divided the society, and this affects the bringing the different section together and proved to be an important factor in growth of the Indian nationalism. So rise of middle class intelligentsia was the British administration and economic innovation gave rise to the urban middle class, and according to the Persian Spear with varied background put a common foreground knowledge, idea, values and minority of Indian society, but the dynamic minority, so education, new position and close tie with the ruling class came to be forefront. Leadership of Indian National Congress in all of the stage growth was provided. So impact of contemporary movement, what was the impact? See, first was the reactionary policy and racial arrogance of the ruler, like examination of ICS was 21 to 29, and Grand Delhi Darbar at the Delhi. So Lytton policy, famine, vernacular press act provoked the storm of opposition in the country. Ilbert Bill controversy, Ripon government had vowed to abolish judicial disqualification based on distinctions. So powers and rights both are like European colleagues. Ripon had to modify the bills, thus almost defeating the original purpose because of the stiff opposition from the European community. So it became clear that nationalist justice and fair play could not be expected where interests of European community were involved. So organized agitation by the European to revoke the Albert Bill also taught the nationalists how to agitate for the certain rights and demands. So political association before the Indian National Congress was Administrative Reform, Association of Indian Administration and the Spread of Education. So the political association of second half of the 19th century came to be increasingly dominated by the teachers, and they had a wider perspective and a larger agenda. So the National Congress was not the first political organization in India. However, most of the political association of the early half of 19th century were dominated by wealthy aristocratic elements and local and regional in character. Okay, so the political association in the Bengal was like Bangabasha, Prakashika Sabha and the Jamindari Association Landlord Society to founded the safe and interest of landlord household limited perspective landlord society marked the beginning of the political activity used method of constitutional agitation redress the grievance. The Bengal British Indian Society was 1843, so its collection and dissemination information relating to the actual condition of people in British India and to employ such other means of peaceful lawful character as may appear the calculated to secure the welfare extend the just right and advance the interests of the classes. British Indian Association, so it was establishment of separate legislation of popular character, separation of executive and judiciary function, reduction in salary of higher officers, and abolition of duties, salt duty, abkari, and stamp duty. So this was particularly accepted where Charter Act of 1853 provided the additional tax member to the Governor General and Council for the legislation purpose. The East India Association, Dadabhai Naoroji, in London to discuss the Indian question and influence public men in England to promote the Indian welfare. Later branches of the association were started in the prominent Indian cities. So the Indian League was started in the Shishir Kumar Ghosha and stimulated the sense of nationalism and encouraging the political education. Indian League by the Shishir Kumar Ghosha and the East India Association by the Dadabhai Naoroji, London to discuss the Indian question, influence of public men in England to promote the Indian welfare. British India Association was founded by the British India Parliament, establishment of separate legislation, separate executive, judiciary, reduction in salary, abolition of salt duty. So British India, like Bengal British India Society, then British India Society, Landholder Society. So these were important society to have to be in the mind. Now create a now next was the 1876 was the Indian National Association. It was the younger nationalist Bengal led by the Surendranath Banerjee and Anand Mohan Bose. Indian National INS was established by the Anand Mohan Bose and Surendranath Banerjee. So the conservative and pre-landlord policy of the British Association should be removed and promote the by every legitimate means of political, intellectual, material advancement of people, create strong public opinion on the political questions and unify the Indian people in the common political program. So it's protested against the reduction of age limit 1877 and civil service examination. The association demanded the simultaneous holding of civil service examination in England and India and indigenization of higher administration posts. In the campaign against the Repressive Arm Act and Vernacular Press Act and branches, the association were opened the other towns and city. So it's a conference which took the Calcutta. Then more than 100 delegates of different parts of country attended this conference, All India Nationals Organization. So now next was the Pune Sarvajanik Sabha, that was the Mahadev Govind Ranade object of serving the bridge between the government and people. Bombay Presidency Association was the Badruddin Tayabji and Firoz Shah Mehta and K.T. Telang. It's 1885 and Pune Sarvajanik Sabha 1867. Political Association Madras Mahajan Sabha. So it was founded by Viranga Chari and Subramaniam Iyer 1884. Pre-Congress campaign was for imposing the important duty on cotton, for Indianization of government service, against the Lytton, against the Adventure, against Arm Act, against the Vernacular Press Act, for fight the Volunteer Corps, against the Plantation Labor, and against the England Immigration Act. Support the Albert Bill, for all the Indian Fund for the political agitation. Campaign in Britain for the voter age, for the appearing in Indian civil society. The English Indian Association took up this question, organized an all India agitation against it, popularly known the Indian Civil Service Agitation. Next was the understanding the contradiction of Indian and colonial interests, political administration, economic unification of country, role of press and literature, rediscovery or Indian past and historical research, rise of middle class and intellectia, impact of contemporary movement worldwide, reactionary policy, racial arrogance of ruler. So the Bangala Basha and Prakashana Sabha was Jamidar Association or Local Holders Society, Bengal British Indian Society, British Indian Association, East India Association, Pune Sarvajanik Sabha, Indian League, Indian Association of Calcutta, and the Bombay Presidency Association and Madras Mahajan Sabha. Now, what was the Indian National Congress Foundation and moderate phase? See, moderate phase was started 1880, so solid ground has been prepared for establishment of All India Organization. Final shape given by the AO Room, who mobilized leading intellectual of the time, and their cooperation organized the first session of Indian National Congress in Gokulghat, Tejpal Sanskrit College in Bombay. As a prelude to this, the two-session Indian National Conference and which was representative around all major town of India. Surendranath Banerjee and Anand Mohan Bose were the main architect of the Indian National Conference. So, National Congress was attended by 72 delegates that presided over the Vyomesh Chandra Banerjee, and in different part of the country. Each time, some of the great president of the Congress during the early phase of Dadabhai Nauroji. So, Surendranath Banerjee, Ramesh Chandra Banerjee, Anand Mohan Bose, Gopal Krishna Gokhale. Other prominent leaders included the Mahadev Ranade, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Shishir Kumar Ghosh, and Motilal Nehru, and Madan Mohan Malviya, G. Subramaniam Iyer, and Vijay Raghavachari Dinchai Vacha. So, Kadambini Ganguly, the first woman graduate of Calcutta University, addressed the Congress session, which symbolized the commitment of freedom struggle to give the women of India due status of national life. Apart from Indian National Congress, national activity was carried out through the Provincial Conference and Association of Newspaper and Literature. Safety valve was the theory of formed by the Hume Congress with idea it would be proved to be safety valve for releasing the growing discontent of India to this end and convince the Lord Dufferin not to obstruct the formation of Congress. The extremist leader was Lala Lajpat Rai, believed to be safety valve theory. Even the Marxist historian conspiracy theory was offering the safety valve notion. For example, R.P. Dutt, Indian National Congress, was born out the conspiracy to abort the popular uprising and India a bourgeois leader. So modern Indian historian, however, dispute of ideas safety valve. In their opinion, Indian National Congress represented the urge of politically conscious Indian and political and economic demands and Indian conveyed such as body there would be unsurmountable oppositions and such as organization would not be allowed to be circumstances. So Bipin Chandra observed Hume as a lightning conductor and together to the nationalist forces. So what was the Nationalist Congress in initial stage? So they was the found Democratic National Movement, politicize the political, educate people, establish headquarters, promote friendly relation, nationalist political worker in different parts of country, develop, propagate anti-colonial national ideology, formulate present popular demands before the government with view to unifying the people over a common economic political program, develop the consolidated feelings, national unity, and irrespective of religion, caste, race, and carefully promote the nurture the Indian nationalhood. So this was about today's lecture. Now we will discuss tomorrow.